The evening heat in Enugu felt unusually heavy that day, the kind that pressed against the skin and thickened the air until even breathing felt like a burden. But inside the small two-bedroom house at the corner of Udi Street, what suffocated the most was not the weather, it was anger. 19-year-old Adaobi, slim, dark-skinned, with her hair tied into a rough puff from frustration, paced back and forth in the living room. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her breaths sharp and uneven. Her jeans were dusty from storming out earlier, her t-shirt damp with sweat. Hurt sat on her chest like a stone. Opposite her stood her mother, a woman in her late 40s with tired eyes and a wrapper tied loosely around her waist. Her cheeks were streaked with tears she didn't bother to wipe. She looked older than she had that morning, as though the argument had added years to her face. "So this is how you will repay me, Anne?" Mama Adaobi shouted, voice cracking. "After everything I did for you? All my sacrifices?" Adaobi's fists trembled at her sides. "Sacrifices? Which sacrifices, Mama? The ones you use every day to remind me I owe you my life? I am tired. I am suffocating in this house." Mama Adaobi gasped like she had been slapped. "Adaobi, you told me I am suffocating you." "You are, Mama." Adaobi wiped her face angrily. "You control everything. You insult me. You never listen. I can't keep living under you." Silence fell, a long, sharp silence that sliced through both of them. Then Mama Adaobi whispered, voice trembling, "I am the only parent you have left. Your father died working himself to the bone for us, and you want to abandon me." "Maybe I should," Adaobi yelled. Something broke. Not a plate, not a door. Something deeper something between them. Mama Adaobi staggered backward, clutching her chest. "You will leave me, just like that?" Adaobi looked away, unable to meet her mother's eyes. "Maybe Lagos will be better for me. At least I can breathe there." Mama Adaobi's voice dropped to a whisper. "You want to go to Lagos and leave your mother alone. For once I need my own life." Adaobi snapped. The last thread snapped. In desperation, Mama Adaobi reached out to touch her daughter's arm, but Adaobi yanked her hand away like the touch burned. That single gesture hurt more than any insult. "God will judge you, Adaobi," Mama Adaobi sobbed. "God will see the pain you want to put me through. And God will see how you treat me," Adaobi shot back. Before her mother could speak again, Adaobi grabbed her small Ghana must-go bag, slung it over her shoulder, and marched out of the house. "Adaobi!" Mama Adaobi screamed after her. "Adaobi, Biko, come back! Don't do this to me! I am your mother!" But Adaobi didn't stop. Her tears blurred the road as she walked, but she kept moving. Her heart was breaking, yet her feet felt forced by years of pent-up frustration. Down the dusty street, past neighbours peeping through their windows, past the mango tree where she learned to climb as a child. She didn't look back, not once. At the motor park, the conductor's voice cut through the noise. "Lagos, Lagos, last bus, and to make we day go." Adaobi hesitated. Her mother's cry echoed in her mind, raw, broken, desperate. But pride is a stubborn thing. She wiped her face and whispered, "I'm done fighting. I need peace." She entered the night bus. Back home, just as the bus engine rumbled to life, Mama Adaobi fell to her knees outside the compound, choking on her sobs. "My child? My only child? Don't leave me." But Adaobi was gone. The bus pulled away, carrying a daughter fueled by anger, and leaving behind a mother collapsing into the dust, hands shaking, heart shattering, whispering the same prayer over and over. "God, please, bring my daughter back to me. Lagos greeted Adaobi the way it greeted most newcomers, with noise, heat, impatience, and a kind of loneliness wrapped in traffic fumes. The night bus dropped her at Ojota around 5:42 a.m., just as the sky turned pale grey. She stepped out with her small bag, her face tired, dusty, and swollen from crying. People rushed past her, hawkers shouting, conductors dragging travellers, buses revving loudly. The city didn't stop to ask who she was or what pain she carried. Lagos never did. Adaobi clutched her bag tightly and whispered to herself, "Welcome to your new life." By afternoon, she had already learned 3 Lagos lessons. 1. Nobody cares about your tears. 2. Money finishes faster here than anywhere else. 3. Trust is earned slowly, if ever. She walked the streets of Surulere looking for cheap accommodation and cheaper food. She ate gala and pure water for 2 days. She slept on a shared wooden bunk bed in a tiny hostel full of girls trying to survive life. She missed home, but her pride stayed louder than her hunger. Whenever her phone rang and Mama flashed on the screen, Adaobi's heart squeezed painfully. But she always pressed stop call. She wasn't ready, not yet. It was on her 3rd day that she met Blessing, a 22-year-old thick-boned, dark, cheerful girl with the softest smile and the loudest laugh in the hostel. Blessing had the type of voice that felt like a hug and the kind of heart Lagos hadn't managed to harden. Yet. "You are the new girl, right?" she asked, sitting beside Adaobi on the bunk. Her voice wasn't intrusive, just warm. Adaobi nodded, avoiding eye contact. "Just trying to find my feet." "Everybody is finding their feet in this Lagos," Blessing laughed. "No shame in that, me too. I came here last year with only 3,500 naira. For the first time in days, Adaobi smiled faintly. Blessing noticed her swollen eyes. "You've cried too much, what happened? Problem at home?" Adaobi wanted to brush it off, but something in Blessing's gentle presence loosened the truth. "I had a fight with my mother," she whispered. "A big one." Blessing nodded slowly. "No one annoys like a mother, and nobody can love like mother too." Adaobi looked away, tension tightening her chest. "I don't want to talk about it." "No wahala," Blessing said softly. "But just know, anger is sweet a little, but regret stays bitter forever." Those words landed like a stone in Adaobi's stomach. Days turned into a week. Adaobi applied for receptionist jobs, sales jobs, anything she could find. She queued for hours at offices. Some told her to come back next week. Others told her there was no vacancy. A few offered jobs with salaries so low they felt like punishment. At night, Adaobi lay on the thin mattress staring at the ceiling. Every thought drifted back to Enugu, to Mama Adaobi, to her broken voice, to her falling to her knees. But each time her phone rang, Adaobi's heart hardened. What would she even say? How could she go back after walking out so cruelly? Blessing watched quietly as Adaobi rejected call after call. One night, after the 3rd decline, Blessing finally spoke. "You can forgive her, you know, right?" Adaobi snapped. "You don't understand." "I understand pain," Blessing said softly. "My mother died when I was still in SS2. If she was alive today, even if she slaps me 10 times, I will just embrace her." The room fell silent. Adaobi's throat tightened. Her heart trembled with guilt. But she still whispered, "I can't call her. Not yet." By the 2nd week, Lagos had drained the last of her money. Stress carved new shadows under her eyes. She smiled less, and she ate less. She worried more. Her phone kept ringing. "Mama, Mama." Mama. One evening after another rejected call, the screen flashed. No, 18 missed calls. Adaobi froze, fear slicing through her. What if something happened? What if... Her mind raced, panic creeping in. Blessing placed her hand on her shoulder. Just call her back. Adaobi stared at the phone, then at her trembling hand. But instead of calling, anger and stubbornness flared again. Her thumb hovered, and with one shaky breath, she blocked the number. Blessing gasped. Adaobi. Adaobi's face crumpled, but she forced her voice steady. I need time. But deep inside, where loneliness was already digging its roots, Adaobi felt something tear painfully a thin thread between mother and daughter. And Lagos, the city that embraced no one, watched silently as Adaobi severed the last connection she had to home. The days after Adaobi left were the longest of Mama Adaobi's life. Enugu moved on as usual. Okada men shouting for passengers, women frying akara at dawn, children chasing each other around dusty compounds. But inside the small house on Udi Street, time felt frozen. Every morning Mama Adaobi woke with swollen eyes and a chest heavy enough to crush her. She told neighbors she was fine. She told church members she was just tired. She told herself she would not break. But some pains don't listen to stubbornness. It started with breathlessness. A simple climb up the staircase left her clutching the railing. A walk to the market ended with dizziness. She coughed more. She slept less. One afternoon she collapsed while sweeping the compound. The widow next door rushed to help. Mama Adaobi, are you okay? I'm fine, she insisted, brushing dust off her wrapper. Just small tiredness. She smiled as if everything was normal, even though her hands trembled, even though her heart felt empty, even though loneliness had become a second skin. But what hurt the most wasn't the sickness, it was the silence from her daughter. One night, after waking from a bad dream, Adaobi crying inside a burning house, Mama Adaobi lit a kerosene lantern and sat at the wooden table. She prayed, My Adaobi, I know you are angry. I know I hurt you. But I want you to remember this. A mother's love may be imperfect, but it is never absent. If you can forgive me one day, I will carry that forgiveness like gold in my heart. May the universe guide you. The next morning she tried Adaobi's number but was unreachable. So she waited, and waited, and waited. When the next month came and Adaobi still hadn't unblocked her number, Mama Adaobi wrote a letter. Her hands were steadier this time. My daughter, I hope Lagos is treating you well. Please eat. Please stay safe. The world is not kind to young women alone. I'm praying for you. Another month. Adaobi, I remembered today how you used to dance when you were a child. You loved to stand on my feet while I held your hands. If I am strict, it is because life beat me before I learned how to bend. I never wanted it to beat you too. Forgive me if I carried my scars wrong. I hope you're still dancing somewhere. I hope joy still finds you. Letter after letter, month after month. Tears staining some pages, shaky handwriting marking others. Her cough worsened. Her skin lost colour. She grew thinner, paler, slower. Yet she told no one. She didn't want Adaobi to come home out of pity. She wanted her to come home because her heart softened, not because she felt obligated. So she hid her sickness behind greetings, behind market chatter, behind church hymns. But the truth was simple. Mama Adaobi was breaking. Emotionally, physically, quietly. Every night she would whisper, God, please keep my daughter safe. Please touch her heart. Please bring her home. But deep inside, she feared time was running out. The night was unusually cold in Lagos. Adaobi, now 21, sat on the edge of her thin mattress in the cramped one-room she shared with Blessing. The noise from the street below, Okada horns, frying oil crackling, loud arguments, and loud generators, felt normal until her phone began to ring. It wasn't her mother's number. It wasn't any familiar number. Just a strange Enugu line. She almost ignored it. Almost. She picked up, voice low. "Hello?" A shaky voice replied, the tone already telling the whole story before the words landed. "Adaobi. It's Mama Rose from the compound. My dear, your mother is very sick. Very, very sick. You should come home." Adaobi's heart froze. Not a beat. Not a sound. Just silence stretching into her bones. She swallowed hard. Sick how? What happened? Mama Rose sighed heavily, like she was holding back tears. It's been long coming. She hides things. She pretends she's fine. But my daughter, she's not okay at all. Please come. Adaobi ended the call and stared at the wall, feeling heat rise behind her eyes, but she forced it back down. The same old stubbornness, the same pride that had kept her away all these years. Blessing, who had been quietly washing plates, noticed her trembling shoulders. "What happened?" she asked, stepping forward. Adaobi didn't answer at first. She just sat there stiff, clutching her phone like it was burning her hand. Finally, she whispered, "They said, my mother is sick." Blessing exhaled sharply. "Then go home." "I don't know," Adaobi muttered, voice cracking. "We've not spoken in 2 years. I blocked her. Blessing, you don't understand what she said to me that night. And you don't know what she has said since then," Blessing cut in. "You ran away. She's been trying." Adaobi's chest tightened. "She hurt me." "And you didn't hurt her back?" Blessing asked gently. "Sometimes parents bleed too." Adaobi looked away, jaw clenched. Blessing went closer and knelt beside her. "Listen, don't wait until regret becomes the only memory you have left. Go. Even if you're angry, even if you're scared, go." Adaobi closed her eyes. For the first time in years, her heart felt soft and terrified. That night, she packed a small bag. At the motor park, the smell of diesel and roasted corn mixed in the air. People pushed, shouted, loaded luggage. The conductor's voice thundered, "Enugu, Enugu, enter with your change." Adaobi hesitated one last time. Blessing squeezed her hand. "Don't be late." Adaobi nodded. "I pray I'm not." She climbed into the night bus, her chest tight, her mind racing. As the engine roared to life and Lagos lights blurred behind her, she whispered into the darkness, "Mama, please wait for me." The night bus rumbled out of Lagos like a wounded animal, its headlights stretching across the highway in long, trembling beams. Adaobi sat by the window, her chin resting against the cold glass, her small travelling bag pressed to her chest as if it could steady her heartbeat. The bus smelled of dust, old leather, fuel and unspoken prayers. Around her, everyone seemed lost in their own troubles, sleeping, murmuring, sighing. But her mind was louder than the engine. The moment the city lights faded, the memories came. At first, she tried to blink them away. Then they forced their way in, one after the other, like scenes from a film she could no longer stop. She remembered the argument, the last day they ever spoke, the shouting, the insults, the door slamming, her mother collapsing in tears, and she, Adaobi, climbing into a night bus just like this one, leaving a woman who had given her everything. She whispered to herself now, voice trembling. I was wrong. God, I was wrong. The driver turned up the radio, high-life music filling the bus, but Adaobi didn't hear anything except her own heartbeat. She imagined walking into the house. She imagined Mama sitting by the door, weak but smiling. She imagined dropping to her knees, holding her mother's hands, saying, Mama, I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. She imagined Mama sweeping her into a tight embrace, crying, laughing, saying, My daughter, I have been waiting. Adaobi wiped her face with the back of her hand. I will apologize properly, she whispered. Not by phone, not by letter. She will hear it from my mouth. The bus rolled into Enugu just as the first hint of dawn painted the sky a faint grey. The air was cold, colder than Adaobi remembered, and it carried the smell of wet sand, early morning firewood, and something else. Something like memory. Adaobi stepped down from the bus, jeans rumpled, t-shirt damp with tears she had not realized were still falling. Her mood was a storm, fear, guilt, hope. Everything crashing together. She flagged down a keek, her voice shaking as she gave their home address. The journey felt shorter than it used to. Or maybe regret made every second feel like it was slipping too fast. When the Kiki stopped at the familiar dust compound, Adaobi stepped out slowly, her legs suddenly heavy. The house looked the same, yet older, like it had been waiting too long. Her mother's red plastic slippers were still by the door. The small potted plant Mama Adaobi loved was still struggling for life. Everything was there. Everything but sound. The compound was quiet. Too quiet. Adaobi felt something cold grip her heart. Mama? She called softly. No answer. She pushed the front door slightly. It opened without resistance. The air inside was still, thick, like the room had been holding its breath for hours. Mama, I'm back, she whispered, forcing a small smile as if her mother would emerge from the kitchen. Silence. She took another step, and another. Then she saw it, her mother's body, lying on the floor beside the chair, her head resting gently against the wooden leg, as though she had tried to sit up, her wrapper spread unevenly, her hand reaching toward the door, toward Adaobi's direction, as if she had been waiting, as if she had been trying to hold on. Adaobi froze. The world stopped. For a split second, she didn't breathe. Then the scream tore out of her chest, raw and shattering. Mama! Her voice cracked. Her knees buckled. She dropped beside the still, warm body, warm enough to show it had only happened minutes ago, and gathered her mother into her arms. No, 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 Mama, please, she cried, shaking. I'm here. I came back. Mama, please wake up. Please wait for me. Mama, I'm sorry. Please don't go, please. Her tears soaked the wrapper. Her hands trembled as she touched Mama Adaobi's face. She could feel the last heat leaving her skin. Mama Rose rushed in, holding a cup of tea and bread with some neighbours, surprised. Chim! Ooh! Mama Rose exclaimed. Shh! She was just fine 30 minutes ago. She requested I prepared her some tea, she said as the cup of tea slipped off her hand. Mama, talk to me, Adaobi begged. It's me. It's your Adaobi. I'm home. I came to say sorry. I came to fix everything. Mama, please don't leave me like this, please. But the only reply was silence. A heavy, final silence. Adaobi pressed her forehead to her mother's chest, sobbing uncontrollably, her voice echoing through the compound. She had arrived minutes too late, just minutes. If she had taken an earlier bus, if she hadn't hesitated, if she had forgiven sooner, if she had answered those calls, the house remembered her. But her mother would never open the door again. Adaobi clung to her mother's body, trembling, begging, breaking. "Mama, please. Just one more chance." The sun had climbed higher, but Adaobi didn't notice. She had gone to her mother's room crying for closure when she saw the opened wooden box filled with letters. She sat cross-legged on the cold floor. The letters spread around her like petals from a wilted flower. Each one beckoned her to read, to feel, to understand, a bridge built in ink and paper across the years of silence. She picked up the first unopened letter, her hands trembling. "My Adaobi, I know my ways have been hard on you. I have shouted, punished, and scolded, but know this, it was never to break your spirit. It was to teach you strength, to prepare you for a world that would not be gentle. I was strict because I feared the world's cruelty more than your anger. Mama." Tears blurred her vision. Every memory of her mother's harshness, every argument she had held onto like a shield, now felt heavy with love she had refused to see. She opened the next letter. "I never told you about the nights I went hungry so you could eat. I never told you about the neighbor's boy I scolded because I knew he was trouble. My secrets were never meant to punish you. They were meant to protect you." Adaobi's chest tightened. She could feel the weight of her mother's sacrifices crushing her pride. How many times had she judged Mama? How many times had she left without understanding the depth of the love behind the strictness? Another letter fell into her lap, older, stained with tears. "My health has not been good, Adaobi. I cough more than I should. My chest pains sometimes. But I hide it from everyone because I want you to return home not out of pity but because your heart is ready to forgive. Every day I pray that you will come back. Every day I beg God to soften your heart and to let you see the love I carried for you, even in your absence." Adaobi's body shook violently. Her mother had borne pain silently, hidden it, carried it for her all while praying, hoping, waiting. The realization hit her like a thunderclap. The letters continued, one after another. "I pray for you daily, my daughter. I pray for your safety, for your happiness, for your heart to be free of anger. I pray that you will one day understand why I acted the way I did, why I held firm even when it was hard. I have never stopped loving you, Adaobi." Hours passed. The stack dwindled, each letter heavier than the last. She collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Her body shook with grief, guilt, and love all mingled into one unbearable wave. The wooden box sat beside her, open and empty of secrets now, but full of the echoing presence of a mother's heart. She whispered through choking tears, "Mama, I came too late. I came too late. Forgive me." Her cries filled the room, a painful song of regret and realization, as if the walls themselves were weeping with her. In the stillness, she finally understood the depth of the love she had run from. And in that understanding, Adaobi's tears carried not just sorrow, but the fragile beginning of healing. The compound buzzed with relatives, neighbours and friends the morning after Mama Adaobi's passing. Women wept openly, some clutched one another like fragile bottles about to shatter. Men murmured prayers, shaking their heads in disbelief. The scent of wet earth and cooking fires mixed with the faint sweetness of dried flowers placed by the door. Adaobi stood in the middle of it all, her jeans slightly torn from kneeling on the floor the night before, her eyes puffy and red, her hair messy from crying. She felt the weight of everyone's gaze, not just the curious eyes of neighbors, but the accusatory stares of family. "Where were you when she needed you?" one aunt asked sharply, voice trembling. 2 years. 2 long years you abandoned her." Adaobi's hands clenched tightly. She swallowed, keeping her voice silent. Yes, she had abandoned her mother. Yes, she had been too proud, too stubborn. But the words were sharp, and the grief made her nearly fall. Still, she endured it silently, letting the weight of her guilt crush her without resistance. The day of the burial arrived. Rain fell, soft, slow, grieving. The sky mirrored the mood of the compound, grey and wet, tears from the heavens mingling with the tears on earth. Neighbours whispered, elders wept, children stared silently. After the burial, Adaobi stayed in Enugu, 3 months of quiet, reflection and mending. She visited her grave daily, tending to the garden her mother loved, reading the letters again, and learning to speak to her mother in her heart. Each letter became a guide, a map back to understanding, love, and forgiveness. Slowly, Adaobi began to heal. Slowly, the sharp edge of guilt softened. And though the loss would never leave her entirely, she learned that love can outlast absence, and hope can survive even the heaviest grief.